Alright, so before we get started drawing muscles, and we're going to do that in just a second, I just want to briefly go over some things about the skeleton that we haven't covered yet. So you notice here I have a more detailed layout of the skeletal structure. I've added a little more detail to the pelvis area, added the front view here of this, here, also added the thorax, so the entire rib cage, and the spine. So I want to go ahead and go through the rib cage here for just a second. So this whole thing, the rib cage, also the thorax, you have 12 ribs. And this is the same for both male and female. So I know you might have learned differently in Bible school or something, but if you look at biology, you look at dissection of human body, male and females have the exact same amount of ribs, which is 12. You have 12 on each side. It goes like this: 1, 2, or first, second, third, like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the first 5 ribs. Now the next 5 ribs is all connected to one cartilage piece. So you have this one cartilage piece that connects to the sternum, and that connects these ribs. The ribs are actually here. The yellow part is the cartilage. So the next 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, sorry. I meant here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Notice that one connects here to the bottom. All these 5 are connected to this whole cartilage piece. The last 2 are floating ribs. It's kind of hard to see from the front view. But you have this 11 and then 12. From the side view, you can see a little bit better. Actually, from that's the 3/4 side view. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11 and 12. From the back, you can really see the floating ribs. Also added this position here, which I didn't feel was necessary to draw with me. But if you want to draw this and kind of, so you can kind of here, you can kind of draw this if you want to. And it's a 3/4 back view. And so you kind of just, draw it from reference, draw from memory, draw from reference until you kind of have a feel for it. It's really not necessary, but I want to just, for certain muscles, I need this angle. So here you can see the last 2 ribs are floating ribs, this one and this one. So they don't attach to anywhere, they're just floating. The next thing is that you have your spine. And your spine, from the side view, you can see has these spikes coming out the back. And sometimes you can see these protruding, especially up here by the neck. You see the little bumps. And sometimes in the middle back and the lower back, you can even see them. Depends how skinny the person is. And then you have, from the front view, you'll see you have the spikes coming to the side. Now the ribs, it might actually look sometimes like from the back view, it might actually look like the ribs are connecting to these little, they're not really spikes, they kind of have a dull end here, but they're not. They're actually connecting behind it. So the rib comes up and connects to each piece vertebrae, but it does it behind this little piece here. So you notice that some of these it looks like it's coming behind, and then sometimes it looks like it's just an angle. It's just the angle. It looks like it's growing out of that part, but it's actually not. It's connecting behind it. Just keep that in mind. Although it's not that important, I just wanted to make sure that it's understood. Right, so I think that covers everything we need to know about the skeleton. Oh, one more thing I guess it's important to know about the skeleton is that as these ribs connect here to the costal cartilage here, they come up and they skip 2 vertebrae and they connect to the third one. This one skips 2 vertebrae, connects to the third one. So from the back, you'll see from the front they're connected here. That's why they come up like this. You can see from the back they come up and they connect here. So if you look at this vertebrae here, where this rib is connected to behind here, it actually comes around and back to the front, and it's going to skip 1, 2, and it's going to connect down here. So each rib goes like that and connects around. Although that's not super important, it is kind of important to know why you have this look here, because it comes here and it skips up 2 and goes to the third one above it, like that. Boom, boom, boom. So it has this diagonal view to the skeletal structure from the side view. Right, so let's go ahead and start putting on muscles. The muscles that we're going to start with, well, first off, I just want you to know, and although these muscles aren't important to memorize, it's just good to know that there are muscles in between the rib structure. And so if I were to quickly draw that, what it might look like, let's go ahead and use kind of a pinkish color for muscles. So you have muscle here between the ribs. I'm going to use this brush here. Like that. So just keep in mind that between all these ribs, there are muscles between them, the ones that have connective tissue. That's not important to memorize. I just want to be thorough and know that you know it's there. Right, so there's no reason for us to draw those though. You also have a bunch of muscles running all along the inside of the vertebrae and on the outside of the vertebrae. You can look at some medical books to see what that looks like. Those aren't important to memorize either. There's a lot of little internal muscles inside the skeleton that aren't important to memorize for how to draw the human figure, so we're not going to go through those. We will go through the muscles that are important for the human figure, and there are some under muscles that are important for the human figure because it affects how the muscles overlap them. So we're going to start with arm muscles here. Muscles that attach to the humerus and scapula. Alright, so we're going to start with the coracobrachioles, and it's going to connect to tendons that insert themselves here. This is part of the scapula. This is that part of the scapula that turns around. I'll show you what part of the scapula we're referring to from the side view. And I should actually make this more clear on the side view. I forgot to connect the lines here, so let me go ahead and draw those really quick. So the part of the scapula we're referring to is this part right here that comes in. So you have the humerus bone, and it actually should be a little bit above the humerus bone. So let me go ahead and fix that. All right, here you go. So just basically, it just lacks some detail I wanted you to be able to see here. And the detail is that it kind of comes more like, the shape is more like this from the side view. So it's attached to this under part of this part of the scapula. So that's the part that's coming out toward us right here. Alright, so we're going to draw the coracobrachioles, and I think I'm going to use this kind of pink color for the muscles instead of, or maybe a red. I don't know, most of the time it's kind of a reddish color, so maybe I'll use kind of a reddish color. So we're going to attach it here, and this part will be white, but for now I'm just going to draw it red for a second. And it kind of comes down like this from the front view, and it attaches to this inner part of the side part here of the humerus bone. So it attaches here. Alright, go ahead and fill this color in. And for the tendon part, or the fibrous part, I'm going to use kind of maybe a dullish brown color. I don't want to use the same color as the bones, though. And I don't want to use the same color as the background either. So maybe just trying to find a color that will work. Maybe I'll use a lighter pink. No. Just know that these are tendons, and it doesn't really matter what color I use, so long as the color is distinguished from everything else. And maybe I'll just use this color here. But then it's kind of hard to see where it attaches. I'll use a gray. So the gray will be distinguished from the background. Right, and you'll just know that the muscle attaches there. We're going to put some muscle fibers in here. And we'll use a darker red color, and this will just show some of the muscle fibers. Now this muscle here is seen when you lift your arm up, and let's say out to the side, so up and to the side, and we'll view muscles from different areas. You'll be able to see part of this muscle here when you move your arm out to the side, and you have your shoulder comes up like this, your deltoid. You have this muscle you can kind of see before you see your bicep. You can kind of see this muscle here. That's the muscle you're seeing, right? So kind of like that, right? You can kind of see this muscle, and then your armpit is in this area, and the armpit is caused by the deltoid, your pecs, which come up like that, and then finally the back muscle, which we'll be getting to, and then it creates this kind of, well, within here. We'll get into that. You'll see what I'm talking about. Just know that this muscle, where it inserts is, knowing where they insert is kind of important, because then you'll know, hey, if this muscle turns, or this bone turns this way, if someone twists their arm kind of back a little bit, you'll know this muscle is going to kind of twist with that, and so where it connects can be important. Right. So, and then we'll also make a sheet that has all these muscles, like this, and it'll have the written name of the muscle out, so you can see how the muscles are spelt and what they're called, and it'll just, just for a quick diagram you can go look at. And also, I want to make a Photoshop file that you'll have with the project, where you'll have layered names for muscles, for under muscles, for muscles that are more exterior, more interior, and then find the bone underneath that, and all the names and stuff of everything. So that should be helpful to you if you're able to open a Photoshop file. I think you can open Photoshop files in GIMP, so that's a free program. And in case you're interested, this muscle helps to bring the arm forward and inward, also called adduction. The next muscle we're gonna draw is gonna be it's gonna kind of overlap this muscle a little bit, and this is the brachiosaurus. Right, so the brachiosaurus helps lift the forearm when you bend at the elbow. So moving the forearm up this way when you bend at the elbow. It's going to insert itself with two tendons, one here at the top of the ulna, and the other is going to insert itself just right about the mid part and kind of like right here on the side. We'll see it better from the side view, where the right below where the deltoid attaches. We'll go ahead and use this brighter red color here. Well, first I'm going to use that kind of gray color. I might even use a darker gray, I think. Even though the tendons, are quite light in the human body. I want to make sure it's very visible. Make sure the tendons are very visible. Alright, then we'll go ahead and connect the muscle. And so the muscle is shaped kind of straight on this side, but it kind of bubbles out and overlaps this muscle a little bit and comes down like this. Actually, I'm going to connect it a little bit higher. So it would connect a little bit higher. Just go and grab this gray color here, show the tendons. Alright, we'll add just a little bit of highlight here to the muscle. And then we'll add some darker parts to the muscle as well. Alright, so now let's draw his right, or our left, coracobrachiosaurus. And we'll go ahead and use this gray color first. Remember, it attaches here to the bottom of that part of the sternum. Use red now. It kind of has this shape where it kind of comes down. It kind of gets, well, actually I want to keep it closer to the bone here. Kind of gets thick here. And it's going to attach, remember it's going to attach to the side, the inside side of this, the humerus bone. I almost called it this bone. Doesn't really go out that far. Just want to make sure I get the shape here. Just draw a few more lines for the tendon there. This is all tendon. Alright, just draw a couple highlights. Basically, this is just to show the direction of the fibers, that the muscle has fibers. Next, we'll draw the brachiosaurus from the side. It's important when you're drawing to draw from both sides, and the reason why is because you don't want to get confused when you're drawing a left or right side of the body in different positions, going, oh wait, I only memorized it from this direction, so how does it go? And you have to like translate it from here to over here. And I'm going to go ahead and shape this up a little bit like this, just to shape it up a little bit. And it kind of comes out a little bit, but that's fine, as long as they're pretty similar. So you want to memorize it from both directions, because when you're drawing the body from different positions, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, what does that muscle look like? But you have it memorized from this side, and then if you kind of twist the arm a certain way, you're trying to reverse what you learned. So if you learn it both ways, then you don't have to reverse the muscle as you turn it around. So remember, this muscle is connect up here, and it's going to be connected to the side, which we can't really see right now. Like this. And it's going to come down, and it's going to kind of have this S curve, and it's attached to the top of this ulna here. This is going to be covered up by another muscle anyway, but it's still good to know. Not all covered up. Part of it will show, but part of the bottom part will be covered up. Right, it's shaped about like this. So it kind of has an S curve to it. Just want to draw a few of these. Part to the tendon, coming down. Just go and add a few fibers. So I'm trying not to go overboard on the fibers because, I want to be able to see that they're there. Right, so that's about what the muscle system looks like there. And this muscle is a muscle you see, especially from the side view, between your tricep and your bicep. So if you were to draw, you have your from the side view, you kind of have your deltoid come down like this. You have the tricep. This is the brachialis, you see. Then you have your bicep. Then you have another one that's going to come out here into the forearm, and we'll get into that later. But I just want to show the importance of this muscle and why you're learning it. Right, so let's go ahead and then apply these same two muscles from the side view. So remember the coracobrachialis attaches here to the underside of the sternum, like so, and it attaches to the midway, or rather to the underside of the humerus, well, from this view. So from this angle, it's actually going to connect to the side over here, and it's going to disappear out of view. So let's go ahead and draw with red. From the side view, this muscle is going to disappear out of view like this, and it attaches down there to the side of the humerus bone, the inside side, which is why we can't see it from this view. Okay, so that brush isn't working. Oh, using the wrong color. Might have to use the one brush to get the fine details. Right. Next we have the brachialis from the side view. We'll go ahead and use gray again. Remember, it connects right below where the deltoid connects on the humerus, and that's on the outside side, the side that we're viewing right now. Kind of comes like that. Let's go ahead and attach the muscle here. From this side, the muscle looks a lot thinner. Remember, it comes down and attaches to the top part of the ulna. So it's actually going to go under this bone here. Remember, this bone here is not the ulna. This is the radius. So it's going to be going under the radius and attaching to the top part of the ulna, which we won't be able to see from this view. But we will be able to see just a little bit of that tendon coming through. Right, and there's a couple little fibers here. Right. So you can see from this view the muscles look a lot more thicker than from the side view. Now one thing you can do at this point in Photoshop is take the skeleton, copy it, and then flip it horizontally by going Edit, Transform, and then flip horizontally. Then you can draw the same muscles from the other side. Now from the side view, I don't know if it's necessarily as important to draw from both sides as if you know they come down. Well, maybe it is important. So you might want to go ahead and draw it from the other side. To do that, I've selected the skeleton layer. I'm going to copy, paste, edit, transform, flip horizontally. Now to do this with pencil, just simply take one of your skeletal structures that you drew from the side and you draw it from the other side. Or if you want to save time, you can, flip it with tracing paper and then trace over it like that. But I recommend actually drawing it from your memory from the other way. That way you're used to drawing a person facing left or facing right, because it does change a little bit kind of how you draw things. But for the most part, the brain can flip this pretty easily. Doesn't have the same troubles with flipping left to right like this sideways views that it does like to learn when from a front and back view to learn how to draw the pec learn how to draw both pecs. You don't want to just learn how to draw one pec and not the other pec from the front view. That's where the brain kind of gets confused on things. Remember, this is going to kind of disappear back here. Behind the bone. Draw a few of the fibers. Gonna get my other brush back here. Next, remember right underneath where the deltoid's going to be attaching, that's where you have the tendon attaching to the bone. And then it kind of comes down behind over here. We'll go with red now. And it's kind of a thinner muscle from the side view. And we'll add some fibers to it. Okay. So now you have the same muscle from both sides from each left and right, but you can see how the brain can translate that very easily. Right, so for your exercise now, before we get too far, I want you to go ahead and draw first this side again. So draw this side again a few times from reference, and then draw this side a few times from reference, and then draw this side from memory, just to see if you can feel the difference of how it's like, and then try drawing this from memory. Tell me if you kind of feel the difference where you're kind of thinking back to, actually wait, let me redo that. I have an experiment I want you to try. Go ahead and draw this 5 more times from reference, just this side. After you draw this 5 more times from reference, try drawing this side from memory. Without drawing this side from memory yet, you draw this 5 times from reference, now try to draw this from memory, this side from memory. You're going to feel something happen, unless your brain works differently than the mind. You're going to feel something happen to where it's like you're kind of trying to think about reversing and how does this shape go? Does it go like this or like this? And you're going to find it more difficult. Now try to draw this from memory, and you'll find it much easier. So then go ahead and go back to drawing this from memory a few times and draw it from reference, memory from reference, and then do this side from reference 5 times, and then memory, then reference, then memory, and then tell me if it's not easier to draw this side. It should be a lot easier now to draw this side than it was before, because now you're learning how it connects from this side, and so this is like a mirror flip, and the brain has difficulty with it, like I said, unless your brain works differently than mine. And so it's better to learn to draw them as separate individual entities. But when you draw like this and then flip it to this, the brain has a much easier time learning it. But still, I would draw this a few times from reference and then draw it from memory, both sides. That way, it feels very natural to draw it left or draw it right. But definitely don't skip this part on your exercises. Draw the right side 5 times from reference, draw it from memory, go back and forth until you can draw it from memory pretty confidently. The main parts these 2 muscles are pretty important, so don't skip them. Then draw this side from reference, draw from memory, draw from reference, draw from memory until you feel comfortable drawing this side as well. Treat it as if it's a separate muscle. It shouldn't take as long to learn it because you already kind of know the muscles. You're just learning the other flip of it. And so however long it takes you, that's how long it takes you until you feel comfortable drawing both sides from memory without having to think too hard to flip around in your brain. Then for the next part of the exercise, do the side view the same way, and then the side view the same way. So draw it a few times for reference, a few times for memory, go back and forth. You kind of know the process now, the method that works and trains your brain. Let's go ahead and draw these muscles from a few more angles. Alright, so first we'll draw the coracobrachioles from the 3/4 view. Remember, it attaches to this underside of the sternum, or excuse me, sternum, I meant of the scapula. It's going to come down and connect to the inside, and from this view you can actually see more where it connects to the inside of the humerus bone. So it's not hidden as much as from the side view. Also, you can kind of see more of its shape from this view, where it kind of has a shape like bumps out like this. Just draw a few little lines coming in where the muscle is meeting. Just draw a few highlight lines, and then finally a few dark lines. Next, we'll just draw the brachialis, which is going to come from, remember the side, we can kind of see the side, but it's more like right here, right? It's a little bit harder to see the side view from the 3/4 view. You're not, like from the side view you can really see it. From here you can't see as much, but it's still there. That's the side view. It's going to kind of come around like this. And now we're going to see more of this S curve. And so remember, it's going to be attaching to the top of that part of the ulna. I had the shape a little bit wrong. It should come more out fat here and then come down thinner. So I meant to do this with this bright red. Be consistent here. Alright, just going to draw a few of the muscle fiber, or the muscle and tendon fibers where they meet. Use the same gray color down here for the tendon. Right, so you can see from the 3/4 view, it looks very similar to the front view. And this is a mix between the side view and the front view. And drawing it like this is important. So now what I want you to do is draw it about 5 times from reference and draw it from memory. You should get it very fast now, because you've already done the exercises for these views. You've done the exercises for these views. You know the muscle very well now. So when you apply it to 3/4 view, you should learn it very quickly. It's a slight alteration of just mixing these two views. Your brain should assimilate the information easily, and you shouldn't have to do many exercises to get it down. Right, so if you've been doing the exercises, then you know these muscles quite well. And so from the back view, it shouldn't be that hard to draw them. You should be able to draw them without even me showing you how to draw them from the back view. Your brain can assimilate the information, but just in case, you have the inner side where the coracobrachialis or coracobrachialis, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, one of the two. It connects here to the inner side. I'm going to draw that from the inner side. See some of that tendon connecting there to the inner side. And then the muscle extends outwards and comes up and connects to the underside of that sternum, which we can't see from this view, but we know it goes up in that area, in that direction. It looks quite skinny from the, this muscle is a quite skinny muscle anyway, so from the back view it looks pretty skinny. Like that, see some of those tendons. Let's draw some dark lines in here. That is some fiber lines, and then some light fiber lines, just where you can kind of get a feel that it's a muscle. Now the next muscle, remember, it comes around like this, and remember, it attaches to the top part of the ulna, on the inside part of the ulna, and comes up and it connects to the side of the humerus bone that faces out this way. So it's the side where the deltoid attaches, and we'll get to where the deltoid attaches, and you're going to see how it all makes sense there. But anyway, you're only going to be able to see a very tiny portion of this muscle from this back view. Like so. Remember, the insertion point is about halfway up the humerus bone, right below where the deltoid is going to be attaching. A few times I almost drew it too low. And that first time I did draw it too low, so make sure you don't draw it too low. Right. So there you have it. So from the back view it looks like this. So you can kind of imagine from the 3/4 view you're looking from the back, and from the side view if you're looking from the back you're only able to see a portion of that muscle. And so you should have been able to predict that. Your brain has the power to predict something like that. But just in case it didn't, I went ahead and drew it there for you. So go ahead now, if you want, draw this 5 times. But you should, okay, this is any, oh, I'm wrong, undo button. It shouldn't take you too long to get that down. Right, next we'll draw it from the 3/4 back view, and I'm going to start drawing in red, and then I'll show the part that's tendon with gray. But this is going to go up and under a couple muscles. It's going to go up and under a few muscles that come across this way, and then also there'll be a muscle that attaches to the part of the humerus and comes down like this. So it's going to go under these muscles. We won't go through names yet, but we will get to them. but it's going to attach up here. So remember, it attaches up to the underside of the sternum. It comes down, attaches to the inside of the humerus bone. Let's go ahead and draw the tendon. Tendon and cartilage is really similar. I'm almost thinking I should have drawn the tendons in yellow like I did cartilage, but oh well. Like so. Remember, again, you can only see a part, because it's still kind of a back view, you can only see a part of this muscle where it comes down like that. This is important to know too, because this will help kind of structuralize the way you see the arm from the back view. With the tricep and everything, you'll kind of get a feel for the muscles in the back view and what can be visible from the back view. This starts to help train your brain to kind of start seeing the back view. Anyway, don't skip it. It's important. It'll train your brain. Just trust me. And the reason why we're doing it like as if we're inventing the human body, you want to treat this the way we're doing this, the way we're going about learning. If you haven't kind of already figured this out, is we're treating the human body as if it's a new animal we've never seen before, as if it's an extraterrestrial life form, and we've never seen it before, or we are extraterrestrials, we've never seen humans before, and we got like tentacles and stuff, and we're like, wow, this creature's very interesting, and we're learning it like that. When you learn to draw the body as if you're inventing some new creature, your brain has an easier time memorizing it. So when you learn something in the way that you've kind of created it, it's easier to memorize. So if you ever created a character, you notice it's much easier for you to recall that character, what it looks like, than something that you haven't created, something that you just looked at a couple times, and then you're trying to remember it. So we're creating the human being in our mind. We're developing a neural network in our mind of a creation of the human being, and it'll make the memory, your mind, will have a much easier time recalling what it looks like that way. Right, so that covers this muscle quite well. We can see it from all the different angles. If you feel it's necessary to take and draw the muscle from another side, then you can. So if you want to go, okay, hey, you know what, I want to flip this the other way around, flip it horizontally and draw it again, you can, but it's probably not necessary. But let's go ahead real quickly and draw it from the inside over here where we can kind of see it, because you can see that the inside attachment of this muscle, the cor brachialis, is going to come up like so and attach up there to the inside of the sternum. I don't think it's going to be that far out. Like this. So we'll be able to see a part of that muscle. And this part here is the tendon. Let's go ahead and draw some fibers. Next, we're going to be able to see just a little bit. Now, what's interesting from this view, keep in mind, what you want to remember is that the brachialis, the muscle, or I don't know if it's brachialis or brachialis, but anyway, it's pronounced one of those two ways. The muscle that attaches, that muscle, the brachialis, it attaches here to the side view, to the outer side of the humerus bone, where the deltoid's going to be attaching. And remember, it comes down to the front side, to the opposite side, where it connects to the ulna bone, to the top part of the ulna. And you're going to be able to see just a little bit of it like this. So it kind of has this S pattern, which is why from the front view, you kind of see it has that kind of S pattern. So remember, it comes from one side and goes to the opposite side. Because the outer part of the humerus is the same part that the radius is on. But it doesn't connect to radius, it connects to the ulna. So it has this overlapping, right, this kind of S-curve to it. So then it attaches over here to the ulna. Knowing that about the muscle is important. Right, just draw a view like that. So that's how it looked from the inside back point view. Right, so I think after if you want to go ahead and do the exercise for this part here as well, draw it a few times from reference, a few times from memory. It's pretty easy now. You get it down. You should have a good feeling for the two muscles and how they overlap each other, and where the insertion points are. So you can always figure out if you drawing quickly from your mind. I'm gonna use a different color. If you're drawing quickly from your mind, and you're like, okay, got the thorax here. I know the basic shape of it. And as you're drawing all this, you know you have the basic shape here, and like this. You have, your humerus bone and all this. And as you're drawing from your mind, you know where all these bones are located and kind of what they look like. You don't have to actually draw the skeletal structure. You can just draw like, stick figure. But okay, I know that this muscle, I want to it connects from the side view, and it kind of comes over here like this. And then I have the tricep, and it's also going to be kind of hidden from me from this view. Then I have the bicep, and it connects to the part of we haven't gotten to this yet, but it connects to part of the sternum, not sternum, sorry, I don't know why I keep doing that, the scapula, and then it rolls around that middle part of the humerus bone, and you have it coming down. Anyway, so it comes down like that, inserts. And as you're drawing from your mind, you can know the location of points and where muscles attach, and then your mind's automatically okay, if the muscle attaches here and here, then this is the part of the muscle I'm going to see from that view. And it's going to really help you when drawing from imagination. And in fact, this knowledge will probably make the figure easier to draw than after you've gone through mastering the human figure. Mastering human figure is really good, and it should help you draw figures a lot easier than you ever could before, and a lot better than you ever could before. And anyone that's taken it knows that, and I'm including it free with this course because it is essential knowledge that's necessary to know. Like when you want but you want to learn this knowledge too. And I kind of maybe did it backwards. I should have maybe done this first and then released Mastering Human Figure. But I'm gonna start including them together. Well, at least with this course, including them together because all the knowledge is kind of necessary together. But what happens is after you learn the anatomy of the figure, and you know where muscles attach, and you can attach those muscles where you want to attach them to, then what happens is when you're using the knowledge from Master Human Figure and you're kind of laying down, a stick figure and stuff like that, you know that you have the bulk forms as well, right? Like this, let's say this is an arm, then you have the deltoid. That's the bulk shape of it, but when you know where the muscles attach, you're like, okay, deltoid attaches here, it comes up, attaches to, you know all the attachment points, and we'll get into, I don't want to get ahead. And you have that muscle which we just dealt with, this muscle we just dealt with, and the bicep is going to kind of come over that. And when you know this about the attachment points, it's going to help you flesh out your characters that much easier. And in fact, you'll be able to skip certain parts of the drawing process altogether because you know where the muscles go. And you'll be above, like, almost everyone, because not very many people are going to go through a hardcore lesson like this. And so if you take the time to do the exercises, and I can't stress this enough, people, if all you're doing is watching this like a TV show, perhaps you're entertained. I don't know if that's entertaining or not, but you're not going to get better doing that. It might improve your drawing a little bit, and you're going to be really excited about that improvement, but I'm telling you, if you want to see the maximal improvement, you want to see awesome improvement, you need to draw along with me while you're watching. If that's all you do, if all you do is just draw along with me as I'm drawing, and you do nothing else, you don't do any of that exercises, you're going to see a tremendous, at least a 50% greater increase in your drawing than if you just watched it. That's how your mind memorizes, by doing things, not just by watching it. So just like if you watch someone play the piano, you're not going to get better at playing the piano. You watch someone play the guitar, you're not going to get better at playing the guitar. You watch someone perform martial arts, perform boxing, watch all the boxing matches you want. You're not going to be a better boxer by doing it, right? So, but if you practice the boxing, you'll be better at boxing. So if you practice drawing, you'll be better at drawing. So at least draw along with me. I can't stress that enough. I know I say it over and over again, but I know people will just sit there and watch it and they won't actually draw along with me. And what's going to happen is, if you've already watched it, you're not going to want to go back and watch it again. It's just what the brain, it just gets lazy. It's like, I've already seen it, I don't want to watch it again. So draw along the very first time you watch it. Because the chances are, if you don't, you won't go back and watch it again and draw along with the video. But if you're truly wanting to get better at drawing, do all the exercises. I know it's like tedious, and draw it 5 times from reference, draw it from memory, draw it from reference, draw it from memory, until you got it down. If you do that, that's where my guarantee comes in. I guarantee you'll be able to draw the human figure like no one else around you. Mind that you have just a little bit of artistic talent. But yeah, so please do the exercises. I'm telling you, you're doing yourself a disfavor. You spent the money on the course. Do the exercises. That's what this course is trying to teach you to do. It's trying to teach you how to train your brain. And you're not training your brain if you're not at least drawing along with me. And then secondly, doing the exercises. All right, so I think I've blabbed on enough about that. Let's go ahead and draw the muscle one more time from this side, because remember, drawing it from each side is a little bit different. But you should be able to figure this out on your own now. And in fact, I want, as an exercise, if you would do this, if you just pause the video and try to figure out without looking at this here. So have no drawings in front of you, just have the skeletal structure here, and try to draw, right? And if you have the Photoshop file, you can open it up that I have with the course, and then just take the skeletal structure, disappear the muscles, make a new layer, and then draw over it like that. Or you can draw on paper, however you want to do it, or paint on paper, whatever medium you want to use. And try to do it from your mind where you think these muscles go. You know the attachment point. You know that the core brachialis attaches to the part, this inside, on the other side of us we can't see it, but it attaches up here. We know that to the under part of this part of the scapula. And we know it attaches to the inner part of the humerus bone. You know that the brachialis, it attaches to about the midway point where the deltoid is going to be attached right below it to the outer portion, the outside of the humerus bone, and it wraps around to the inside and attaches to the top of the ulna over here. Right, so we know that about the two muscles. Go ahead and try to draw them from your memory, and then come back and watch this and draw with me. Right, so we know it attaches up here, so hopefully you've done the exercise, and you've paused and everything. Okay, hold on, I want to make it a little bit further down. So first I'm going to draw it kind of like a thin thing like this, then I'll add a little bit of that thickness it has. Comes up there, disappears. Let's go ahead and draw the tendon. Right, we'll go ahead and draw couple muscle fibers. Let's make those fibers kind of visible. So hopefully you've done that part right. You should have got that part right, because that is pretty easy to figure out just by knowing the insertion points and kind of the shape of the muscle. The next insertion point is here on the side, but we can't see it much from the back view. And it kind of comes around, and then it's going to come, and we're going to be able to see a little bit of it. And now remember, we're not going to see it covering this. It's going to be on top of that muscle. So we only be able to see it. If we could see it through, it would be like that, but we can't see through this muscle. So it comes down attached over here to the inside. So remember, this muscle overlaps the muscle from the front view, right? It overlaps this muscle, but from the back view, this muscle overlaps this muscle, because remember, it's like you can logically figure that out. Okay, let's draw a couple little fibers. Call it done. Right, so now you have a good idea, and sometimes, depending on the back view, you might not be able to see any of this muscle, but you might be able to see a little bit like this, because it's wrapping around. And I should actually restructure this muscle a little bit, because it shouldn't come out that far. It should kind of go like that. But sometimes this depends. You might not be able to see any of the muscle on this side at all. It's not all that important for the overall structure of the figure anyway from the back view, but still, I want to be thorough with covering the muscles. The most important things to memorize is the side view for these muscles and the front view. Alright, so let's go ahead and add another muscle now. I wanted to draw these two under first because we're going to draw the bicep. Right, so now we'll be drawing the biceps brachii, but we mostly just call it the biceps. That's how most people refer to it as. It moves the arm forward, and it also helps in turning your hand outward, which is called supination. For those who care, I don't. It has 3 insertion points. So one insertion point of the bicep is going to be on the scapula. So around the same part this one here attaches to, we'll have one insertion point here. The other insertion point, it rolls, there's a groove in the humerus bone here. It rolls through that, the tendon rolls through that groove, and it connects into the tissues of the shoulder joint. So those are the 2 insertion points from the top, and then the bicep will come down attached to one muscle and connect to one tendon on the kind of inside. There's a part of this bone that kind of rolls around like this, and it's this part right here, that's where it attaches the tendon, and it will come up and it'll form our bicep, which has 2 points up here, like so. Right, so let's go ahead and draw the bicep. So now I'm on the outer muscles layer. That way, I'm not actually painting over those layers. They'll still be there. So if you turn off this layer, you'll be able to see the muscles underneath it. Right. So again, it's going to attach to the same place here, but more to the front side of it, of the scapula. It's going to kind of have a shape like this. It's not going to fully cover that muscle. Then it's going to come around, and it's going to attach to the side over here. And it's kind of attaching to the inside of this. From the front view, it's kind of attached to the inside here. So don't draw it on the out. It's attached right there to the inside. Then it comes up like this, and then the muscle branches out. It completely covers this other muscle, the brachius, at least from the front view. From the side view, it doesn't completely cover it, though. We'll see that from the side view. So come up like that. And actually, I want to show the break in the muscles here of the bicep. Then have that groove come in here, and you have the splitting of the bicep here. It's actually going to split much further down than that. All right, let's go ahead and color this in. Then we'll draw the color of the tendons and everything in a second. Now keep in mind, a lot of medical books aren't thinking about the three-dimensionality of they're not thinking about artists so much, they're not thinking about the three-dimensionality of the muscle so much, but you'll have more of the muscle from this front view. They're going to draw it to where from the front view, a medical book is probably going to draw it more like this. Insertion point, and you can see these 2 points coming out like that. But that's not how it actually looks from this front view. It kind of looks more like this, where this part, this split, is actually overlapping that split a little bit as it comes up and behind. All right, so I'm just going to draw a few of the fibers of the muscle here. I really want to show that split between the muscles. In some muscles, the fiber direction is very important, and it's going to help you when drawing figures with skin on them, knowing where bulges and stuff like that are at. So the direction of the fibers can be very important, which is why I'm taking the time to do them. All right, so up here you have the tendon, and it kind of comes down like this. You have this tendon that rolls around like that. Then you have this tendon down here. This whole part is more fibrous tendon material. And it kind of starts attaching to the muscle like so. I'm going to use a little bit of a really dark color here to separate, like so. I might want to go ahead and use a dark color just for the very edge of this, because I want it to be visible where it's overlapping the other muscle. Okay, so at this stage then, it's a whole new muscle you've introduced. I want you to draw this 5 more times from reference, and then I want you to draw it from memory the best you can. I'm just going to kind of darken some of this so you can see the overlapping areas. And then draw it from memory a few times, and then draw it from reference and memory until you feel comfortable drawing this. You know the insertion points. One wraps around and rolls. For the sake of just memorizing, you can just say this side attaches to this part of the humerus, and even though it's not medically correct, it wraps around like that. But for drawing, it works fine to just memorize. It attaches here, and attaches here, and attaches here. Okay, next we're going to draw it from this side, and when we draw from this side, we're not going to look at that side at all. We just want to memorize as a separate entity how to draw this muscle from this side. All right, first we know our insertion points. So we come down, I'm going to draw this part first. And we need to draw with this pen. Kind of gets fat down here. Remember, it attaches to the inside over here. Kind of comes around. Has its fat point right around here. Right, that's that side, like so. And this side comes out and it gets fat here. It comes up, and remember it's kind of being overlapped by the other one a little bit. So now I'll draw the center portion here where it's overlapping that muscle just a little bit. And we'll add just a few muscle grooves to show the texture. We'll go to gray, show this as a tendon here that it's attaching, pulling out. This is all a tendon here, and this is all a tendon here. Draw some white fibers. Finally, I want to use this dark color, and I just want to show almost like a drop shadow. I just want to show where the muscles are overlapping. Okay, so now we drew the bicep, and we drew it from the other angle. And what I might do actually is I just want to change, and I didn't see this until I looked at it out. Not to looking at the other one, but I saw it when looking zoomed out more. I can see this should be shaped more like that. So I'm going to use this dark color again. Kind of curves it more like that. That's more like where the bicep would be. And when this flexes, it all balls up. Remember, your shoulder comes way down here, and so the deltoid, and so your bicep is quite short. That is, the length of the arm from here to here is about the same as from here to here, right? So these two lengths are about the same. So when you're drawing the arm, then you kind of draw this tube like this, and then you have the slightly shorter tube in the hand. What happens is half of this is covered with the deltoid. Then you have the bicep, and you see some of the tricep in the brachiosaurus right there. Then you have the forearm coming out, this muscle here, right? So what happens then is the bicep area is quite small. It's not like this super long muscle right here you see, and that's a common mistake people make when they're drawing from their memory, and sometimes even from reference. They see it wrongly, and they think that this whole part is as long as this part here, when it's not. It's actually quite short because it's just this little area here. Right, so you should have a good sense of the bicep now. It shouldn't take you as long to memorize this side since you've already done the exercises and memorized that side. Now do the exercises, draw 5 times from try 5 times from reference, or maybe you only need to draw it 3 times from reference before you feel very comfortable with it. Just draw from reference until you feel comfortable drawing it from reference until it looks correct, and then draw it from memory a few times, and then draw it from reference and memory until you feel really comfortable drawing this side, and you're not having to flip the information to draw this side. You're not having to look at this to draw this. And keep in mind that when you are drawing the right side, don't make the left side visible. So cover this up with another piece of paper. If you're working with paper, take a dark piece of paper or a book or something, cover that side up so you can't see it. That way you don't accidentally look over and cheat. Make sure it's completely covered when you're drawing this side. So as you can see here, you can turn off the outer muscle layer and see the under muscle structure. Right, now let's go ahead and draw the bicep from the side view. So it shouldn't be too hard for us to draw this from our mind right now because we know the insertion points and the basic shape of the bicep. We know one insertion point is here, and it wraps around, goes into the shoulder, and that this comes down in front of us. And we'll go ahead and draw with this pen here. And it kind of follows along this whole entire shape. I don't know why that's a goofy thing that happened with the driver there. And we know it inserts into the radius, but it inserts on the other side of the radius. We can't see where it inserts at. That is on the inside. We can't see the inside from this outside side view. If we turn the arm upwards, we'd be able to see the inside of the arm, but we can't see the inside of the arm right now. So we know it attaches and it disappears behind this bone because it attaches to the inside of that radius. It comes up a little ways, then it starts to bloom out, which gives you this overall shape of the bicep. So that's one part of it here. And from the side view, we're not going to see much of the other side, but the other part's going to kind of come up like this. And this is the side that attaches to this underside of the scapula. Right? And it gives this overall look like so. I want to go ahead and define that split very quickly. We can see the difference. And actually, this part completely covers that, so you can't, it's like that. So the split's like this. Let's go and add in the tendon that goes behind over there. It goes under. It attaches like in this area, but we can't see where it's attaching. So you can't see the insertion point of the tendon from this angle. We would be able to see the insertion point from a different angle though, from the inside angle. So if I were to take this bone and redraw it to where I flip the arm outwards or turn the arm all the way up so I can see the underside of it, or I turn the person, or in other words, from this side over here, this back side, this bone, we can kind of see it back there. If I were to make everything else invisible and I can see these bones over here, I'd be able to see the insertion point. I just want to make sure that was clear. Should probably use the dark red for this. Just want to show where it's overlapping. Notice from the side view, you can see the brachialis right here, and that's going to be between the tricep and the bicep. It's an important muscle to know, and a lot of people leave it out when they're drawing from memory, but you don't want to leave it out. You want to make sure it's there. Alright, so that's what the bicep will look like from the side view. Let's draw the bicep one more time up here from the side view. And it should be very simple to do this because we have the insertion points memorized of the bicep. We know one insertion point's here. This is the part we can mainly see from the side. We know it comes down here and it connects into the inside. So it's thin and then it kind of bulges out, connects in here. And you have the other insertion point, which is on this underside of the scapula. And you can't see as much of this side view. As you can see, it has that same kind of bulge. Might want to make the bulge a little bit bigger. And then let's go ahead and... So you can see from this side, it's much easier to draw. Oops. Alright, let's just kind of draw some shadows here. Not shadows, but just I want to define the shape of the muscle so it's easy to see. A few muscle fibers. Finally, let's go to a dark gray, and we'll add this tendon here, this tendon here, and this tendon down here. So it doesn't take nearly as long to draw from that side as this side because the brain has an easy time flipping this way. It has a harder time drawing this and this though. I don't know if you're able to see where I just circled. If you draw that and then try to draw this from memory without learning this side, it's harder to flip it around that way. So that's why you want to do this separately. This here, much faster. Alright, so for exercise, go ahead and draw this right here 5 more times from reference, and then draw it from memory, reference memory, until you feel you have a good handle of the side view. The side view is not nearly as hard to memorize once you already kind of know the muscles and their insertion points, which you do now because you follow the exercises here. Now it should be easy to go ahead and get a feel for that. You can see now more of the three-dimensionality of that this is kind of popping out toward us, which is harder to see the way I colored it because I'm not trying to color it with form yet. We'll go through form of the muscles later. Let's go now and draw it from the 3/4 view. Draw the bicep from the 3/4 view. This should be very easy for you to do as well, even from memory right now, because not much is going to change. You know it's going to be attaching to the inside of the radius bone here. You have your tendon attaching here. You know it's going to kind of cover up a lot of, from this angle, it's going to cover up a lot of this, the brachialis, even though it's not actually covering it. You can tell from the side it's not actually covering it, but because it's wider, it sticks out more than this muscle. From a front view and from a 3/4 view, it appears as though it covers it up. So it's just an angle thing. maybe what I should also do is sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'll get back to that in just a second. Just want to finish drawing this. So what I should also do is maybe turn down the layer underneath here. Just turn the opacity down a little bit. I like to lock it so I don't accidentally paint on it. That way when I'm drawing and I'm drawing over the muscles, I can kind of see clearly what muscles are, and you can also see clearly what muscles are distinct. Remember that groove is right here of the bone, so it's in 3/4 view, and we're going to be able to see this tendon come here. So I'm not drawing the actual separation point yet. Now I'm going to just draw the overall shape of it. Now I'm going to draw the separation point. Draw a few muscle fibers. Make that separation point a little darker. Now we'll draw the tendon colors. If you're working with pencil, you don't have to worry about coloring. I'm only using colors so that it's easy to distinguish the shapes. All right. One thing I might actually change about this is I might actually make the bulge start a little bit higher. Maybe start more up here, like that. And let's go ahead and draw some. Okay, there we go. Now what happens with the bicep from the back view? Before we do the 3/4 back view, we'll do the back view. And actually, I'm almost thinking this might not be important to learn because the triceps are going to cover it anyway. So from the back view, the triceps will actually cover the biceps. But just really quickly, just so you know, the shape of the bicep from the back side is the same as the front. You're going to see a little bit of bicep, a little bit of bicep here, and a little bit of bicep just a little bit of bicep here, sorry, like this, and a little bit of bicep right with that muscle like that. But all that's going to be covered by the tricep anyway, so it's not important to memorize. So we're not going to do that angle for the bicep. Right, even though we haven't gotten to the tricep yet, from the kind of 3/4 back side, I just want to show the basic landing here of the tricep muscle. And the only reason I'm doing this is because we're going to draw the bicep here. I just want to show where you'll be able to see some of the tricep there, because it's going to be covering. You'll be able to see a little bit of the bicep like this. You'll be able to see a little bit of that bracket that's in between the bicep and tricep from this angle. And so you can also imagine from here, you'll be able to see a little bit of the bicep as it comes back up here. The tricep is going to be covering most of it, but you'll be able to see a little bit over here. All right, so let's go ahead and put that in there for now. We'll be covering we'll be covering some of that when we do the tricep though. But I just wanted to show that you can see part of the bicep from this angle, from these angles. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and erase these lines I made when we go back to do the tricep. Right, so that covers it for the bicep, and that covers it for this particular lesson. So if you want to go ahead and do a last exercise, it would be just to memorize these two portions here and here. Those little pieces of the bicep that you can see from this 3/4 back view. Alright, next we're going to do the pec muscles, which will be the chest muscles. You might be wondering, well, why is it that you did the biceps before you did the pec muscles? Why not just start with pec muscles or something? Or why can't we move now to the tricep? The reason why I did the bicep and these under muscles, the brachialis and the core brachialis, first was because they're underneath the pec muscle. So next I need to draw the pec muscle going over that, and then the shoulder muscle goes over that. So the shoulder muscle will handle after we do the pec muscle.